Makes a giant and going to be saying you can do a modern version of Scooby Doo crossing over with the Addams family. Scooby Doo and the Addams family, they did have a crossover years ago, but to be true, it being so long ago and the Addams family and Scooby Doo being so iconic that they should have another mind crossover. They did cross over with Batman a bunch of times before in the modern day, which was a modern version of the original times they crossed over with Batman in the new Scooby Doo movies. Also, Scooby Doo has also crossed over with the Blue Falcon a lot in the modern day too. So it would make sense for them to do a modern version of Scooby Doo crossing over with the Addams family, because they're both iconic parts of horror that do it in their own way. With the Addams family being a family of real monsters, and Scooby Doo solving mysteries about fake monsters. Thus, the Addams family loves horror things, so it would be nice seeing Shaggy and Scooby interact with a scary family like that. You can also make it being them being okay with the monsters at first, but Scooby Doo and the gang helping them anyways, and it turning out to be real monsters. Them dealing with the Addams family house being haunted, they're actually being haunted and it being the usual for them, but then them stopping the actual monsters and the Addams family being glad about it. Shaggy and Scooby Doo finding out that Addams family are a real family and they do care about each other. They just do some things in their own way, and then still are doing some horror things. You can also make it that Scooby Doo and the Addams family already know each other from the last time they crossed over with each other, and them already being experienced with crossing over with each other in this crossover. Addams family did get an R-rated horror reboot hit with the Wednesday show, and they are doing a Scooby Doo Netflix show that's in live action, tells the story of how the mystery-solving gang met up with each other. So you can just use that for how they cross over with each other since they're both owned by Warner Brothers. And with them being iconic with kids shows. In the Wednesday live action show, her becoming a monster hunter, so the gang can just has come across the mystery of the monster, then them finding out it's real with Wednesday and helping her to kill the monster. And you could also use it to give the monsters an R-rated horror reboot in the Wednesday universe and then doing a crossover with that too. Either it being set in the same universe or it being a different show. You can do them starting out here, then them getting their own show, or them doing their own show separately and then them doing a crossover with them later. You could also make it the monsters are the monsters that Wednesday is hunting in this crossover, but then end up turning out to be good monsters, or both of them find out that not all monsters are bad and they're being good monsters in the world. And because of the monsters recently getting a live action movie reboot in more recent years, is then it would be the perfect time for you to do an R-rated monsters is horror show. Because the Addams family and the monsters do have a lot in common with them both being horror families, and still doing the horror family thing in different ways. So you should take advantage of that, and it only being fair because of them and being so similar to each other, that the monsters getting it too, especially since the Addams family does have the Wednesday show. Scooby Doo would think that the Addams family members that are real monsters, like their grandma who's a witch, and cousin It who's a hair monster, are just wearing costumes, but then they would find out that they really are monsters. Which you'd also find out they're being good monsters from that, and then managing to convince Wednesday of it using that. Because if they're being good monsters in their family, like cousin It and their grandma, and because of them being good people in their family. And with them doing so many terrible reboots of the Scooby-Doo franchise lately, and them doing so many terrible shows lately in the Scooby-Doo franchise, they would need to do a good R-rated horror show version of Scooby-Doo, and me saying how you can do it, just so they're not messing it up and them getting it right this time. Because they have gotten it wrong a bunch of times before, so this would be good for us getting good Scooby-Doo shows again, and because of them going to keep doing Scooby-Doo, you should do it good. And and so they're not ruining the franchise, and for them doing the actual Scooby-Doo formula for why with us doing Scooby-Doo in general. So us getting it good, so it being good, and if them keep doing Scooby-Doo shows. It needs to be a combination. I'm also going to be saying how you can do some Scooby-Doo movies, so them not running out of ideas there. So them keep doing good Scooby-Doo movies like Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2, and them not just doing parts from their own franchise, like Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. Just do the usual Scooby-Doo show, but this time the monsters being real in every episode. With the gang finding out that monsters are real in the first episode of the show, and them dealing with the monsters being real in the rest of the show. With you doing the same Scooby-Doo mysteries and them doing tracks for the monster, just the monsters being real and them dealing with it like in Zombie Island. You could also do Uguchi as the actual girlfriend of Saggy, and her just being in college for where she's been all this time. Because of her having a good relationship with Saggy, and because as you don't have to do it Velma dating him, or him dating Velma's sister, and because of Saggy actually being able to stay with her unlike with his alien girlfriend. And you could also do the Hex Girls as actual witch vampires. Stop monsters on occasion, and with them still being a band. Them just actually being vampires now, and them using their magic to help the gang solve their mysteries. Them meeting up with the kids that Saggy and Scooby were with, and Scooby-Doo goes to Ghoul Prison. With Saggy and Scooby showing that they are good kids, even though they're monsters, and they're being good monsters in the world, and that Saggy and Scooby actually dealt with real monsters more than the rest of the gang, so that's why I'm always thinking that the monsters are real. Because if there have been times when the monsters turned out to be real, and because of them thinking they're the little boy that cried wolf, and no one is going to believe them until they're eaten. And because of it being so convincing of things the other guys in costumes does, and the rest of the gang just acknowledge that even a guy in a suit can be dangerous. And you could also make it that the ghosts in these worlds are based on real world monster myths. Like the ghosts of Jack the Ripper, and the ghosts of Mike the Spike, the Black-Eyed Soldier and Elsa Bomb, Legend of the Mannequin at Mexico, and the Boghound from Ireland, and the physical embodiment of death and the Ferryman. You can also have an episode where they fight against a giant monster, an episode where someone in a costume gets hit in the head and thinks they're an actual monster, someone being a monster to go against a big evil company, someone being a Scooby-Doo monster to become a supervillain, an episode where Verona becomes a Velma for people going against Scooby-Doo for wanting revenge for him solving their mysteries, and you're also doing another episode where the people that Scooby-Doo solve the mysteries of work together to try to get revenge on him. You can also have O'Reilly here to make him a usual Scooby-Doo character, because he would come in handy in them solving their mysteries because of him being an adventurer. He is similar to Indiana Jones, and it would be good, and he would come in handy because of them traveling around the world so much. It would be good there being some other recurring characters in Scooby-Doo, and it was because of the Hex Girls showing up, and what's new Scooby-Doo is why they became usual recurring Scooby-Doo characters. You can also use this to make Scrappy-Doo look good, and you doing a good version of him, and with him actually acting like a kid and him looking more like a kid. With you doing a story where Scrappy-Doo finds out it being okay that Scooby-Doo isn't as good as he thought, and that he is as good as he thought, because even though Scooby-Doo is a scared cat, him willing to be brave for his friends and family. And you should have a rebooted version of Jellystone, but good this time. It is a good idea to have a bunch of the Hanna-Barbera characters interact together in a city. It just being bad how they're doing it in the terrible reboot way. Being the same in his show, him just being the giant monster of the city. Secret Agent Squirrel being the same kind of secret agent and from his most iconic cartoon show, it just being of Jellystone. Inside Private Eye still being a detective, him just being the detective of Jellystone. And there being a superhero team made out of the superheroes from Hanna-Barbera shows. Blue Falcon and Space Ghost, with the other main Hanna-Barbera characters doing the same thing as in Loki's treasure hunt. With them just doing these things in the same town and them only doing it when they're interacting with each other. Because of that being the only time when I've seen them in the show. And the Wacky Races could just be a show they see in Jellystone that's based on the actual Wacky Races. With you doing a Wacky Races race based on the main iconic Hanna-Barbera characters. With the town being called Hanna-Barbera's, and the Flintstones taking place in the caveman part of that time, and the Jetsons taking place in the future of that dimension. And you should also do an R-rated horror reboot of Casper's Scare Prison, and with you just doing the horror around Casper, not you making Casper himself scary. And you could also do Casper showing up in this version of Jellystone, and with him just being with the other horror Hanna-Barbera characters. And with him being in the ghost that the other cheap knockoffs of Scooby Doo tried to solve, but for him turning out to be a real ghost, and then finding out that not all ghosts are bad, and they're being good ghosts because of Casper. You can also use Jellystone to do Casper crossing over with people that are similar to him and people that are cheap knockoffs of him. Because of them coming from the same company as him, and them being similar characters from Hanna-Barbera as him. Like Richie Rich. Because of him acting and doing the same things as Casper, and Gildy Gold, and you doing her in the familiar faces art style of her, and you just making her Richie Rich's cousin. With Richie Rich just being a kid who's rich, while Gildy Gold actually doing the other things of being rich. It's like her actually going on adventures with it, and her doing crazy things with her money. And they would be cast as human friends in this version of Jellystone. And you should also do Miguel Guerrero the same as in his original show. And with him usually being at a science lab, having him being in with the cat and Wanda Sipes. Because of us wanting to see it from Scooby Doo and Guess Who. And you also making it that all the mascots of the cheap knockoff version of Scooby Doo are on a mystery team of their own altogether. With them solving mysteries, and this being Jellystone's version of Scooby Doo. It being a Scooby Doo mystery solving gang, but made out of the mascots of cheap knockoff versions of Scooby Doo. And for the superhero team made out of the superheroes of Hanna-Barbera, you would make it that people are seeing cartoon shows about them is how them knowing about them, and there have been comic books about them at Jellystone. But with these things actually happening, and them just doing these things based on the actual superheroes, for it being how a bunch of them are rich in this version of them. And because of it being a long time ago, also people are still being inspired by them. Them still having their original companies, it just being one of the reasons why them still being rich into the modern day. With them changing some things in the comic books, so them not knowing their secret identities, and with them still being superheroes in the modern day, just not as much, but then them starting to get back into the game because their supervillains coming back, and them needing to deal with it, and them acting like an actual superhero team, just it being made of Hanna-Barbera characters, and people are still knowing about them because of them still saving people in public from the supervillains. The Space Ghost, you doing him the same, and his villains the same, and with his allies, and him fighting against his villains. With him being similar to Batman, but with him still being his own thing. With him fighting against the Creature King and the Alien Mantises. And with Harvey Birdman being a superhero lawyer for the Hanna-Barbera superheroes, and him being a lawyer in Jellystone for Hanna-Barbera characters in general. With him still being a superhero, him just also being a lawyer, and so him being able to help people in even more ways with the ways he's already helping them with being a superhero. And to make sure them going to jail. Because it just being when he's not being a superhero, and because he's a superhero, him knowing how to do superhero law. And because of him being a superhero, him knowing how to defend a superhero, him also being able to do things of the Judges Club, and him being able to defend himself if someone tries to take him out during the court hearing. at his client. And Blue Falcon should be treated similar to Batman in this version of Jellystone, of him, but he should be treated like Adam West's version of Batman. With him being bright and hopeful like Adam West's version of Batman, with him still being able to be dark and serious like the Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated version of him. With Dynamite the Dog Wonder being his best friend and a robot dog, and his partner, and him caring about him. And with the original Blue Falcon being the dark and serious Blue Falcon that was more based on the actual version of Batman, and the modern day Blue Falcon, and it's similar to Adam West's Batman, and being his son and taking up the mantle from his barber, and having people to help him with it, like his unpaid intern, and the original Dynamite. Also getting along great with Space Ghost because of them and both being similar to Batman, but so different in their own way. And with him still fighting against the original villains of the original Blue Falcon, and like the Dragon Armor, Dick Dastardly, and Mr. Hyde. Still going against them for the same reasons his original barber did, and with him still being able to defeat them. You can also do them crossing over Scooby-Doo and Jellystone, but with them actually knowing a bunch of these guys that they already crossed over with, and you doing the Scooby-Doo formula with the cheap knockoffs of Scooby-Doo, but you're also doing it similar to Scooby-Doo crossing over with Batman, and them and Scooby-Doo and the rest of the Hanna-Barbera crossing over the DC Universe. You're also doing the same things they did when they crossed over with the other Hanna-Barbera superhero shows. And Scooby-Doo and the rest of the Mystery Solving Gang actually already being experienced with crossing over with a bunch of the Hanna-Barbera characters. And with the second Wacky Races reboot, they should make it focus on the actual races and not just them doing terrible things. Them actually winning the race, and if you want plotline things, you should do Dick Dastardly actually winning a race without him cheating, and with Picture Perfect and Penelope Pitstop getting their happy endings in the end. And another thing you can do for an R-rated horror Scooby-Doo show is them doing R-rated like in Scooby Natural. You doing the monsters turning out to be real like in Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island. You doing the mystery similar to Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. You doing them going to different places in the world like What's New Scooby-Doo. You doing the crossover similar to Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. And it being in a post-apocalyptic wasteland and like in Scooby-Doo Apocalypse. With some of the ghosts being based on real-world monster myths, and some of them being in ghosts of real-life villains. Being similar to them solving real-life crimes with them and solving ghosts of serial killers. You're also doing them crossing over the most iconic guise of horror and with other horror movies. Because Scooby-Doo has crossed over with everyone, you would need to cross over with Cujo. To some places that in real life, there being legends about them being haunted. It would be either gang and going around the world that's infested with real monsters and then solving the mysteries of those real monsters. With the monsters being real like in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, and then dealing with the monsters being real like in Scooby Natural. And you would treat in some ways them solving the mystery like how someone solving a real life crime with the monsters being similar to serial killers. Also being some monsters that turned out just being guys in costumes too, but with the real monsters. And also in a bunch of episodes there being more than one monster. If you're doing an episode about a food monster that's like in Scooby Eat, it looking like the monster ate the rest of the gang, but it turns out it just being a guy in a suit, and they were just in the suit with him. You're doing a monster who became a monster because he's a Scooby-Doo fan, and that's why he was Scooby-Doo proof to the usual tropes. So, it being good being a Scooby-Doo fan, but all you need to do to be a Scooby-Doo fan is to like Scooby-Doo. Them also doing with some cartoon ghosts. Them dealing with the ghost of someone who did witch trials, and the ghost of the bear that someone hunted. By a famous guy who killed a bear in history. Them also dealing with the Slender Man and the ghost of the rich guy from Mexico's legend. And with both of them being cartoon shows, so them not being terrible like Velma and the other stuff they did with Scooby-Doo and the other Scooby-Doo shows they did in more recent years.